Hey guys, I'm doing another Photoshop tutorial here. This one's a little bit backwards in many respects. In this instant, instead of having a request from somebody saying I want to be able to do this, I actually did that to this guy right here, Phil. Phil's in the second years at the moment and he has been bombarding me with these planets and I just decided that I really had to know how to do it. So he wrote me out a set of instructions of how to do this and now I'm going to guide you through step by step how to make a planet. And yeah, if you really want to, you can put some starry type effect in the background and some 80s superhero. So let's get going. I'll get rid of them to start with. We're going to make a new canvas, so file new. I'm going to go for about 2000 by 2000 pixels, and I'm going to then make that full screen. I'm going to get the paint bucket tool and I'm going to fill the background black. Next thing I want is a new layer, so I'm going to go to the layer menu, new layer. Doesn't matter about what it's called. I'm going to get the elliptical marquee tool, which is hidden under the marquees, and click and hold, grab the circle, and then holding down the shift key I'm going to draw a circle. Holding down the shift key means that it actually makes a circle rather than an ellipse, which is quite useful for when we're trying to make something that's round rather than elliptical. So I've made a circle. I'm now going to go into my filters and look for rendering of clouds, and then I'm going to go into my filters and I'm going to render difference clouds, and then I'm going to skip between the two, see which one I want. If I use Control and F, I can render the same effect again, but it'll always pull out something quite different. So I'm quite happy with that. If I wanted, I could go into image adjustments and levels, tweak the colours, maybe I want it a bit darker, maybe I want it a bit lighter. It's entirely up to you to go and play with. So I've now got a circle with some smoky sort of looking effect inside, which is a clouds effect from Photoshop. Next thing I want to do is I want to give it that spherical look. I want to give it a bulge. So I'm going to go into the filter menu and look in distort and then spherize. Now if you look in the right hand grid here, it's showing us how much of a sphere we're giving it. We can give it an inverted grid where it goes backwards, but we want a full 100% grid. We can also change whether we're doing it horizontal or vertical or both. Doing both is going to add that nice sphere effect to it. It gives us that nice spherical look. The next thing I'm going to do is add a gradient to what I've got here. Now, for the purpose of this, I'm going to do a new layer, and I'm going to show you why I've done that in a couple of seconds. So, click and hold on the gradient, click and hold on the paint bucket even, and choose the gradient. And then I want to choose some colours. So, Phil's told me it's quite important to not really have more than 2 colours, but not really more than 3. So, I'm going to go for yellow, quite compressed, purple, and blue. And then with my selection still selected and my new layer selected in the layers menu, I'm just going to draw a line across that circle and it's going to put a gradient on. So there's my gradient on a new layer. Now while it's still selected, I can click on the normal and this loads up the blending options. If I just highlight the normal so it goes blue, I can use the down keys to go through the different blending options, try and find one that's quite cool. You could have done this in the mode when you added the gradient up here at the top and chose what section, but then it would have stopped us having the ability to go through multiple choices. I could have, I could save 4 or 5 different versions of these. So I'm going to go with that one. I quite like that. So that's vivid light. Next thing I want to do is I want to add that blur that's coming out of the sides of it, and that's a radial blur. So the first thing I'm going to do is select layer 1, and I'm going to select the inverse of what's already selected. And I'm going to go to filter, blur, radial blur. It's at 100% on the amount and it's on zoom rather than spin. We've got draft, good and best quality. Each one, the good loads quite quickly, the best takes a little bit of time to load. Straight away you can see that that blur has brought the edges of the shape out. And I'm going to reapply that so I get a little bit more. I'm just going to go filter, radial blur, top of the menu, or I can use Control F. When I apply that, it's going to come out even further, which gives us that nice glow that's behind it. The next thing I'm going to do is do exactly the same thing to my top layer, the layer with the gradient on. So filter radial blur, and then filter radial blur. And what that does, it's going to stretch the colours of my gradient over this radial blur that was already created. So right now, let's go in layer order. In fact, I can get rid of my selection now. Let's get rid of the selection. I've got a black background layer. I've got layer 1, which is my planet with the blur, and I've got layer 2, which is the gradient I'll put over the top with vivid light. The reason that I put that on a separate layer was right now, after I've done this, I can go back to normal and go all the way through again and see if there's one that I like more in this instance. Other thing I can do, I can click on layer 1 and go to image adjustments and levels, and then I can tweak with that, and it'll completely change the way it's held. It'll completely change the way that the other layer on the top of it then looks. I can then create yet another image, so almost like an eclipse going on right there. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope that was useful. I hope I got it right for starters. And keep me posted with any more thoughts or any techniques you've got that you want to share. Bring them on.